What's going on, guys? I am back with another video. This time we're going to be looking at the updated deck profile for the Super Heavy Samurai Snake Eye Fire King build. I guess we'll get right into it. Alright, so here we have the main deck, here we have the extra deck and the side deck, and then tokens. So we'll get started on the main deck. First we have 3 Super Heavy Samurai Motorbike, 3 Wakaushi, and the 2 bricks. So this is going to be your super heavy package. You don't need any more than this. This can do everything that you need it to do. You can run one more Benkei, but the chances of seeing him go up, and I don't like that. But if you do see him and he's only at 1, it forces you to normal summon the Wakaushi, which really sucks. I went to locals yesterday and that came up, so it actually lost me the game. So running another big Benkei is an option for that, but there's also just praying that you don't see it. So next, for the Snake Eye stuff, we have our 3 Ash, Snake Eye Ash, 2 Poplar, 1 Oak, 1 Diabellstar. This is going to be your starters that are monsters, and then you have Flamberge, which is the brick, and then you have your spell starters, which is 2 OSS, Original Sinful Spoil Snake Eyes, and then 1 Divine Temple. You do need this sometimes. It does come up, so I do run it, but I do hate opening it. So I've been thinking about cutting it and just adding 1 more hand trap, but I don't know. We'll see. Alright, next we have our Fire King stuff. So we have 1 Ponix, 1 Arvada. Arvada comes up all the time. You end on it sometimes. Most of your combos cycle through it if you go through your Fire King stuff. So yeah, extremely good card. Barong. A lot of people are cutting this card, but this card is really good for playing around Nib. It doesn't lose to Soul Release because Soul Release activates in the main phase, obviously, and this activates in the standby phase. So it's actually a pretty good card. Plus, it's a level 4. So if we get stopped on the Wakaushi, on adding the Soul Guy booster, we can just normal summon Barong and then go into Infernal Flame Bounty using the Wakaushi and the Barong, and then search for Poplar to then keep playing. So really good card. I don't recommend cutting it. Then we have Garunix and the 3 Kirin. Kirin is basically like a hand trap. You can kind of think of it like a hand trap because a lot of times it helps you stop either your opponent's hand trap or one of your opponent's effects because they target, stuff like that. So it's really good for helping you avoid effect negation. So really good in the deck. I recommend keeping it at 3 at all times. This was like, when it comes to engine, this was the MVP in my most recent locals. So very good card. Don't cut it. And then we have our Sanctuary and Island and Circle. These are kind of like pseudo starters, but you don't want to see them. And then Circle, it does come up. A lot of times I use it and I bring back like a Heat Soul, and then I use the Heat Soul to draw a card, and then I can use the Heat Soul on something else to link off into a Link 4, which is pretty insane. You can cut it, but it does come up where Ponix gets summoned like multiple times in a game, and you want to use the effect, but you can't because you only have, you know, the Sanctuary and the Island. So I do run Circle for that reason, for the grind game. Alright, so next we have our hand traps. We're going to be on 3 Ash. It's a fire, it's a level 3, which does come up in this deck because of your pendulum cards. You can pendulum for anything between 2 and 7. So that informs you for the reason for my other choices as well. I have Ghost Bell and Ghost Mourner. I had Effect Veiler in this slot, but Effect Veiler is a level 1, and because of that, sometimes it gets stuck in your hand on turn 1, and you know, you can use it as a hand trap on your opponent's turn, but sometimes you just want to summon it, and the only way to summon it is to pendulum summon it, because you've already used your normal summon. So Ghost Mourner comes up in that situation, and because of that, I run this over Veiler. Then we have 2 Droll and Lockbird to round out the hand traps. and 2 Nibiru. So I don't like drawing multiples of these. Nibiru because it's hard once per turn, and Droll and Lockbird because it's not great, and you can't use it twice if you resolve the first one. So I really like these cards. I don't think that they're bad enough to cut in the meta right now, like a lot of people believe, specifically Droll and Lockbird. But Nibiru also, you don't want to brick on it, because if you see 2 of them, yeah, you can use them once on your opponent's turn and once on your turn. But a lot of times, if you're using them on one of those turns, you're not going to be able to use it on the other turn. So yeah, this is going to be my hand trap lineup. Now we'll get into the extra deck. Alright guys, so now we have the extra deck. We're going to start off with our one Borreload Savage Dragon. He comes in really clutch because our Wakaushi is a tuner, and a lot of times we open Ash and Wakaushi. So what you do is you basically go Ash full combo, and then you summon the Wakaushi before you go into the original Sinful Spoils to summon your Savage, and you should already have Link material in your grave. So yeah, that's how you get to the Savage plus with Link material. So next we have Baguska. This is in case of Droll or Shifter on Wakaushi. If any of those hand traps come out and your only starter is Wakaushi, this is basically what you're going to go into. But even if you have Wakaushi and Ash, if the Shifter comes out, you're probably going to go into Baguska plus something like IP with the Divine Temple in the field spell zone. So that's why you run the Divine Temple, because it does help against the D-Shifter. Then you have Infernal Flame Banshee. This is the card that turns your Super Heavy Samurais into 1-card Snake Eye combos, because you summon this without normal summoning, and then you use this to search your Ash, and then you already have a Fire Body on the board. So normal summoning Ash there is just so insane, because like even if your Ash gets stopped, okay, they Ash your Ash, you go, okay, Ash effect, send itself in Banshee to summon Oak, and then you summon back the Ash, and then you just basically pop off from there. So yeah, insane card. It's a fire, so that does come up for things like Island. So yeah. Then you have Garunix Eternity. Everybody cut this card, but I think this card is so good. It came up like 3 times yesterday at my locals. Every time it came up, the person that it came up against was like, oh wow, you play that card? I thought everybody cut that card. And then like I just wiped the board, and they're like, wait, I guess I can't do anything against that. Fine. So yeah, very good card. I recommend it. If you really don't want to play it, you could play the Barone, but I put Barone in the side, so you'll see that in a few. Then we have Almirage and Link Karibo. These are going to be your Link 1s. Almirage does come up. I just recently put him back in the deck, like probably 5-10 minutes before I started the video. But it's because he came up so often, because Wakaushi is a 1,000 or less attack. Motorbike is a 1,000 or less attack. Even Big Benkei and Booster are 1,000 or less attack. So many monsters in your deck are 1,000 or less attack that you could just normal summon and then turn them into a fire. I'm putting it back in the deck and testing it to see how well it does. Then we have our Sunlight Wolf and our Heat Soul. This is all part of the same package. Link Karibo is really good for things like avoiding hand traps. You can bring him out before you summon like things like your Ponix. Sometimes you can even get him into the grave before you summon Poplar. So really good card. It can help you avoid hand traps, and on your opponent's turn, it can help you avoid getting your Appaloosa destroyed by battle. So that comes up very often. Then Sunlight Wolf is really good for adding back things like Kieran. Sometimes it adds back a fire in some of your mainline combos to then go ahead and pop off of Island later in the combo. So very good card. You basically can't cut it. It's kind of like it's just part of the deck. Heat Soul, on the other hand, is kind of cuttable, but it comes up so often that I never want to cut it. So I highly recommend keeping it. You know, you draw on your turn and then you draw on your opponent's turn, and we run so many hand traps that really does come up. And then if you count Kieran as a hand trap too, like This is 15 hand traps basically. So yeah, Heat Soul is really good. It comes in clutch. The life points thing does kind of suck, but it doesn't come up too often. So then we have Princess, the best fire in the extra deck. It allows you to resurrect your fires. It can help you extend. Any charmer gets into it, so it's very, very good. Then we have Ambler Whale. This is basically just the link 4 that you'll go into off of Princess almost every time. So very important in the deck. If you have Raging Phoenix though, you could technically replace it for this, but in the Fire King version of the deck, the Ambler Whale is so good because of the destruction effects. So yeah, I recommend keeping it in. Then we have the Hita and the Phoenix. These are going to be your Link 2s alongside your IP Masquerena. So Hita is just basically extension if you get ashed, or if you're going against a fire deck. Phoenix is basically for back row. Sometimes you need to go into it to pop your own summon limit, so that does come up. IP is really good in your combos, and most of your combos actually involve IP. So yeah. Then you have your Appaloosa, which is an IP target. Phoenix is also an IP target, but a lot of times you're going into Phoenix on your own turn, so you don't necessarily need to use IP for that. But Appaloosa is very, very good for avoiding things like Nib, negating monsters on your opponent's turn, having a good target for IP. If you end up using all of your Appaloosa negates and then it survives until the next turn, you literally just link it off into Zelantis, and then you have a really, really strong monster that can interrupt your opponent twice potentially. So yeah, this is going to be the extra deck. Let's move on to the side deck. Alright guys, so now we have our side deck. First thing we have is Fantastical Dragon Phantasme at 2. This is decent in the mirror match, going second. It can really help you fix your hand, especially if you draw something like Big Benkei. It can help you draw into hand traps. It can help you draw into board breakers, even though we actually don't run any board breakers really in this deck. But we do have some blowout hand traps, and we do have some pretty good monsters that are kind of like board breakers, starting with Pankratops. Pankratops is really good for back row hate. We also have things like Eccentric for that. So this is 4 back row hate cards. Pankratops can also target any card on the field, so it doesn't have to be back row. But Archfiend Eccentric can kind of do the same thing, because you can put it in the pendulum zone to hit a spell or trap, or you can summon it somehow. You can pendulum summon it, or you can normal summon it to destroy a monster. So pretty good. Not as good as Pankratops, but it is pretty good. That's why we have it here alongside Pankratops. Then we have our Kieran and our Scattershot. These are time cards. So this actually came up yesterday. I was going second, and there was 2 minutes on the clock, and my opponent went into a massive combo. And then at the end of it, I realized, oh wait, I have Garunix, Kieran, and Oak in my hand. Snake Eye Oak. So he was trying to get life point damage on me because he didn't have a battle phase. He was playing Rika Sun Avalon. So they have some effects to get themselves life points, and he was really, really trying to get into that. But I was blocking it off with a mixture of the hand traps and those 3 cards that I mentioned. When I used that at the end, he basically just scooped, because I dealt 500 damage, and he knew that he couldn't get that much life points back. So he just decided to give it up, and I ended up winning the round because of that. So these do come up. You can even use them on your opponent's turn if you get a good hand. So don't disregard them. They're actually very good. Then you have 3 summon limit. This is just a blowout going first card against most decks in the format right now. And then you have your extra deck cards, which is going to be Underworld Goddess, Anima, Abyss Dweller, and Baronne de Fleur. So to explain these, this one goes in against shifter decks, Baronne de Fleur, because you can make it under shifter if you use your 2-card combo. So it is very good, and you can actually, if you add the Dark Charmer to the deck, you can actually make Baronne and also make something like a Unicorn or a Phoenix or an SP Little Knight. So very good card, especially if you add the Dark Charmer alongside of it. but I just don't run dark, so I don't run Barone in the main. But if I did have dark in the main, I would probably have Barone in the main. So then we have Abyss Dweller. This replaces the Baguska against fire decks, or any graveyard deck in general, because you do make it using just Wakaushi. So you can make it instead of making Baron de Fleur, and it basically shuts off, like, if you're going against Fire King, the Fire King variant of Snake Eye, you basically start with the Wakaushi and you go Abyss Dweller, and they can't interrupt you anymore because all of their interruptions come out of the grave. So unless they interrupt the Abyss Dweller, but then all of your other starters go uninterrupted because they used all of their interruptions. So then you have Anima. This just basically goes in going second. It replaces Almirage going second. And that's about it. Underworld Goddess is against decks with Towers monsters. This is a really important card in the deck because we have a lot of trouble outing Towers monsters. So very good card to keep in the side deck. I don't necessarily main deck it, but I could. It does come up enough. I would probably replace it for Zelantis. But in this case, I like Zelantis, so I'm keeping him in the deck. Now, I'll show you my tokens, and then we can get out of here. Alright, so my tokens are just a rock and 4 Tri-Brigade tokens. The reason for that is because I started off playing Fire King using the Tri-Brigade variant. It was extremely fun, so these are the tokens that I had for that. And they came with the Albaz structure deck, so I had them already. And then the G-Golem token I bought a while ago as my Nib token replacement, because I am not trying to spend $20 on a freaking Nib token. So this looks like a rock. It is a rock, so when I get rocked, I just go, okay, fine. And that is my deck profile. Let me know how you guys like it. Let me know if you guys try it out and it gives you some success. Let me know if there's anything that I could replace in this deck to make it better. I tried to avoid using spells and traps because of the super heavy samurai stuff. But if you have Fenrir, Fenrir is also a good side deck card for this deck because Fenrir is a monster and it's a board breaker, and we desperately need those. So 2 Pancratop, 3 Fenrir is an incredible board breaker lineup for this deck. So if you do have the Fenrirs, this deck is even better. You could even use it going first because you can summon it off of the pendulum monsters. So if you go Fenrir and then you go full combo and then you add Fenrir off of the Fenrir before you use it, you can actually summon that second Fenrir to use as an interruption and then use the first Fenrir as like link material or something like that. So yeah, Fenrir is a really good card in this deck. If you have it, use it. Otherwise, what I have here is pretty good. Let me know if you guys like it. Like and subscribe. I'm out. Peace.